You're doing it again. You're sitting there, you're looking at your phone, you're staring at your laptop, you're paralyzed. You want to post the video, you want to start the new business venture. You want to speak your truth. You want to do something that's staying on your mind that's not going to leave, but you're having a hard time because you feel like you're being watched, right? You feel this heavy, suffocating pressure from them. You're convinced that if you take the first step, they're going to laugh. They are going to laugh. They are going to talk behind your back. They are waiting for you to trip so they can say that I told you so. Well, you're convinced, you've convinced yourself that you're at a war with an army of haters, feeling judged, feeling inexperienced, and you may even feel like a fraud. And that feeling is so real that it's keep you stuck. It's kept you stuck in the same place for 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, maybe even 6 years. But I have a question for you. And I want to be like very honest with you before you answer this, right? Who is they? Who is they? Like if I ask you for a name, an address, a seat number for where they're sitting, what would you give it to me? What would you give me? Because today in this video, I'm gonna show you something that might actually be scarier than having enemies. Like I'm gonna show you this psychological glitch that's been documented since 1902 by a psychologist by the name of Charles Cooley. It's called the looking glass self theory because most of the time they isn't even a person at all. It's this ghost. It's like an anonymous fear that's actually living in your head. And today, I'm going to teach you how to stop haunting yourself and finally take action. If you guys are ready for this video, drop some rockets in the chat. And what I got to tell you, though, is still we have 40% of people that are watching this live stream are is the button going to work here? I guess the button's not going to work. But 40% of the people that are watching this live stream are still not subscribed. So like the channel, subscribe to it if you get some value from it. If you don't get any value from it, that's fine too. Because I do get some comments of people saying that some of the things that I say are the craziest thing they've ever heard, and it should be illegal on the internet that I'm saying these things. Well, everybody has their own perspective, and that's why it's called the perspective pause. We have to take a moment to pause and have some self-reflection because momentum means nothing if we're going in the wrong direction, right? So with that being said, what I'd like to do is I guess the buttons aren't working. Oh, I can share my screen though there. All right, cool. Well, what I was going to press was a button on my Stream Deck that pretty much just talked about how you need to like, subscribe, and comment on this video if you get some value. But I know you're going to get some value because there was a gentleman by the name of Charles Cooley back in 1902. I see you. He said, I'm subscribed. I'm subscribed. Resume. Appreciate you, man. I see y'all in the chat. What's up, Matt? What's up, Ian? What's up, y'all? What's up, Mason? Man, just super excited to be here. And if you're watching this on the replay, this is a live stream that I do every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time. But today we're going to go deep. Today we're going to go deep, and I'm going to free a lot of people from something that I dealt with. I'm going to talk about a story that I dealt with, and I'm also going to talk about maybe allowing you to see how certain things that are happening in your life, you're literally creating your own barricades. You're literally creating your own ghosts. You're creating ghosts in your life right now, and they're haunting you. So you're really haunting yourself. You may not even understand what I'm talking about yet, but I promise if you stick with me. But put it this way, right? Charles Cooley said back in 1902. This is really powerful, y'all. If you can understand this and catch this, if you take accountability also for understanding that you're doing this, because a lot of people are going to be in denial as if they're not doing something like this. But in this day and age, the percentages are starting to increase. How more people are literally labeling their own self-image based on what they think other people are thinking about them. Because Charles Cooley in 1902, he said this. He said, "We are not what we think we are. We are not who we think we are. Can I come back to I don't know why my stream deck is doing that. Let me see if I can do it this way here. Let me come back to this here. Um there we go. All right, cool. Let me come back to this before I start drawing. Win, what's up, bro? I see you. So Charles Cooley back in 1902, he said this. He said, "We are not who we think we are. We are not who others think we are. But do you know who we really are? We are who we think that others think we are." I'll say that again. We are who others think we are. Now, this is going to get very deep. This may be even a therapy session for some of y'all. I'm not going to even charge you a copay. The only thing I'm going to charge you for this therapy session is to go ahead and share this video with somebody that needs to hear it or needs to see it, right? Because in this video, I'm going to set you free from the excuses and these invisible handcuffs that you have on yourself that are causing you to say, if I do this, they will say this. If I do this, they will judge me. If I do this, they will be absolutely right because I know I'm not going to look as good as I want to look when I actually do something for the first time. And I want to let you know before we even get started, it's okay with being a beginner. The reason why a lot of us suffer is because we're afraid to become a beginner. But everybody had to begin, and beginning is winning. Because you may be failing forward, or you may be even just failing at all in multiple areas, but just know something. You're further along than the person that hasn't even gotten out of their head and taken action at all. I want you to hear that, right? If you feel like you're in a situation in life right now where you may be failing and stumbling around and things just aren't going the way they're going, you're becoming a person that's far greater than you think you are. And you're a whole lot further along than the person that hasn't even taken the first step. So even if you stumbled 5 times, there's 5 lessons that you learned that the person that's afraid to take the first step will never learn. So, okay, and we're going to get into that. And so before we get started, though, I want to kind of go into what I'm going to call the vocabulary pause, because I'm going to talk about some terms and some phrases and some things that are actually going to be words that are going to be important for you to remember through this process. And I've always gotten good feedback of saying that I'm somebody that could take something extremely complex and break that down into some simple terms and definitions. So if that's okay with you guys, put some rockets in the chat. If you don't mind me taking some complex ideas, theories, principles, and breaking them down into some simple terms, then drop some rockets in the chat. You guys have probably heard of the word anonymous, right? But there's a word called anonymity. Anonymity, right? And anonymity, the simple definition is something that is nameless or faceless, right? You've heard the word anonymous, but this word is anonymity. Anonymity. And it took me a long time to practice that word, but to get it out of my mouth. You don't have to repeat it. You just need to know what this is. Anonymity. Anonymity. And it means being nameless or faceless, right? So when you say they, right? They don't want me to win. They are going to say something about me. They are going to judge me. They are going to project something upon me that sounds painful or hurtful, or they keep saying something like whatever it is. A lot of people just say they don't want this, they, right? So I want you to say, when you say they, you're giving your fear an anonymity because you haven't given the hater a specific name. Your imagination is free to make them as big and scary as it wants. This is the playground of the imagination. And if you can't name them or they, then they or them is not real. I like to say, if you can't name them, then you need to stop trying to blame them. If you can't name them, you can't blame them, right? So a lot of us, I've coached people before and I've asked them, who is the person that you're afraid of the fear of judgment from? What is their name? And they're like, well, I mean, it's, and here's the thing. Sometimes it may go down a lane and you'll find a name, right? But most of the time you won't. Most of the time you won't. Like let me take you down memory lane for me, right? Let me talk to you about this. Well, let me get through these words first, right? There's another word that we're going to be using called interjection. And interjection means swallowing someone else's voice and thinking it's your own. swallowing. So ingesting, like that's taking in somebody else's voice and thinking it's your own. It's like we're taking somebody that we weigh their opinion, their validation, their advice so heavy that we create this strong voice that we swallow and ingest, thinking that it's our own. That's introjection. So here's the perspective pause out of that, right? So this is how we create ghosts. You introjected your 8th grade bully's voice 15 years ago, and now you think that that voice is your own intuition. It's not. It's a borrowed voice you forgot to return. It's a borrowed voice you forgot to return. So what is the borrowed voice that I forgot to return? Because I think that I don't want to just stand here and teach from a place of Charles Cooley from 1902. I want to talk about the experiences of my life that created this, which allowed me to really want to talk about this because I'm setting myself free from this and I want to help somebody else do the same. So when I was 10 years old, I lived in Long Beach, New York, which is Long Island, right? And I have friends that live in New York and they say that's not New York. So whatever, it said New York on my mom's driver's license and her license plate. So we lived in New York. So I'm just saying, right? So when we lived in Long Island in Long Beach, I grew up there, right? And I grew up really close to a playground. And at that playground, they had some basketball courts. And I was probably around like 9, maybe 10 years old at the time. And I'll never forget that one of those Christmases, I got a basketball. It was purple and yellow, right? Or purple and gold, we'll say, right? It was the colors of the Los Angeles Lakers. And it was a Magic Johnson basketball. What was a Magic Johnson basketball? It was just something that was marketed with Magic Johnson's signature on the basketball. I loved to play basketball. I'm not saying I was that great, but I loved to play basketball. So I'll never forget that there was a time when I walked over to the basketball court. I'm shooting hoops, and there was somebody that came along and they said, "Hey, nice basketball." I said, "Thank you." And they said, "You want to play with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. That'd be cool." So I put my basketball down and I started playing with them. We played a pickup game. I think it was like 3-on-3 or something like that, right? And at the time, um, I'll never forget, like, I didn't think that like the basketball that I had would have been a basketball that anybody wanted to use. So I kind of put it by the fence, right? And everybody was like, "Oh man, let's use that basketball that you got. That's pretty cool." And I was like, "All right, cool." I felt like the cool kid, right? I was picked last always, but at this time I felt like the cool kid, right? So I went ahead and grabbed the basketball. We played with it, and we played for hours, right? And I'll never forget that ended up me and another kid that were left there. Everybody else went home, and we were playing like pig or horse or something like that, right? And we were shooting the ball, and he was like, "Hey, I'm out of here." And I was like, "All right, cool, man. Well, maybe I'll catch you tomorrow or something like that." He's like, "Yeah, sounds good." And I was like, "All right, cool." So I saw him start walking away, but then I started noticing that he was walking away with my basketball. He was walking away with my Magic Johnson, Los Angeles Lakers, cool basketball that everybody said, "Let's play with your ball." And he's walking away with it. And I'm like, "Hey, man, let me get my ball." He's like, "No, it's mine now." "It's yours now." "What do you mean it's yours now?" "Well, it's mine now. So, if you're here tomorrow, maybe I'll let you play with it." And I'll never forget in that moment, I got really, really mad, but I was afraid to create any conflict in that moment. And so I said, "Well, hey, man, I want my ball back." And he was like, "What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? It's my ball now." Right. It's kind of like that movie Friday where Debo comes along and goes, "It's my bike, punk." you know, uh, it's my ball, punk. That's pretty much how I felt. Right. And I was like, I watched him walk away because I was too afraid to stick up for myself. I was too afraid to stick up for myself that he walked off with the basketball that I got for Christmas. And I didn't say anything to him. I went home and my mom asked me, "How was it playing basketball?" And I was like, "It was pretty cool." And I wanted to tell her how everybody thought it was really cool that we used the basketball that I got for Christmas, but I just said it was pretty cool. And she goes, "All right, cool." And that was it, right? See in the chat, my mama gave me that ball. Yeah, that's at the time. I mean, I would say that now, right? And I probably stick up for myself now. But in that season, I was afraid to stick up for myself, and I pretty much got bullied by a kid that took my basketball. I remember going home and I'd say that I'm going to play basketball the next day, the next day, the next day, and she's like, "All right, have fun, have fun, have fun." But when I get there, if there wasn't people playing, I would just walk around the park and think about that moment. I would think about that moment. I would go over by the water. There was actually water right there. I remember, and I would go by the fence. I would sit down, and I would just think about, man, you know, I'm really weak. I'm really soft, and I'm a wimp. And that's when my negative self talk started coming in, right? And I started thinking to myself, like, man, I want to talk to my dad about this, right? And I was like, where is my dad? And I realized that he was actually living another life. He had a family. And I didn't really know that until this came about. So in that moment, I was like, well, hey, mom, I want to talk to my dad. And she's like, well, try to give him a call. We had one of those old phones. You pick it up, and you dial it like this, right? So I picked up the phone. I went to call and no answer, right? And I thought to myself, like, man, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm soft. And now nobody really wants to spend any time with me. There must be something wrong with me. And so now I would think like, man, if I do anything differently, or I would be very creative, but anything that I thought about being creative doing, I would catch myself using some negative self-talk to tell me that somebody is going to, you know, laugh at me. Because the part that I didn't bring up was I did actually go to play basketball one of those days afterwards, and I told some of the other kids what happened. They were like, "Where's that basketball?" And I said, "I don't have it." And they were like, "What happened?" I said, "The kid that was playing here last week, he took it." And he's like, I said, "Do y'all know that kid? Do y'all know the kid that took my basketball?" And they were like, "No, that was the only time we ever saw him." And I never saw him again. So he may have been from another part of town. I know there were some kids that came over from a little town not too far, which was called Far Rockaway, and they used to come over and play because we had nicer basketball courts and stuff like that. It wasn't too far, but he left, never came back with the basketball that I got. So here I am now. They're all laughing at me. Man, you let him to take your basketball? Oh man, you're soft. You're a wimp. You're this. You're that. So by them telling me all that stuff, it made me believe that I was soft. Now, come to grips with things. We'll kind of fast forward a year or two later on, and I noticed that when we moved from New York to Florida, I moved to the Tampa Bay area here, and immediately I was the only child in New York when I was 10, 11, 12 years old is when we moved. But when I moved at 12, I finally realized that my dad had another life with his kids, and it didn't seem like when I needed him, he was around. Now he made time to come see me every once in a while, and I remember him taking me to school every once in a while. But I really felt like he was only coming around to spend time with my mom, and it really wasn't to spend time with me, right? And so when we moved from New York to Florida, and I was 12, there was one thing that he gave me, which was a gold necklace, right? And I'll never forget when I got here, I was so confused, and my mom actually she got pregnant with twins, and the man that she started dating, they got married to him when she was what ended up happening, he had two kids also that were older than me. So I was the only child till about 12, and within 6 months I moved down to Florida, and I have four siblings. And I kind of felt like in that season I was going through some tough times mentally. And when I went to school, I transferred. It was like Christmas break when we transferred. And when and there's a reason for all this, right? There's a reason for all this. I pray that y'all stay with me. There's a massive reason for all this, because I know there's something in your life also that you could probably tie into where somebody said something about you and you held on to it. You swallowed someone else's voice and you started thinking like it was your own, right? Which was called introjection. And so, what's wild is that when I actually came here, it was over the Christmas break. I went to a new school, and when I got to the school, I'll never forget. Which is crazy. What I do remember is I was wearing like some Bugs Bunny shirt. I don't know if y'all remember like the Bugs Bunny shirts back from like the '90s, where they used to have like it on the front and the back, and they had the basketball jerseys and stuff. I'll never forget. I had that shirt on, and I felt good about it. I was like, man, I'm going to school and I got a new shirt and I feel cool. You know, I could fit in with everybody else because that's really what I wanted to do at this point. I wanted to fit in with other people because I felt like I was invisible. I felt like, you know, I didn't believe in myself because I got picked on and somebody stole my basketball. I felt like, you know, when it was time for me to actually go ahead and see that, you know, I needed my dad. He wasn't available for me at the time. And then when I came down here, I went from an only child to having four siblings, and I really felt like I was kind of like lost. Now, I'm not going to blame anybody for anything. I am going to take a look and say everything that I went through made me everything that I am, which is a blessing, right? But I will say that after going to the school, it was only a couple of months in, and ended up going to this school, and I would skip class, right? And I would skip class. And there was one time I was skipping class. I remember they used to always laugh about it because they would say, "Oh, there he goes." The class would actually see me walking off of campus and stuff like that. I don't even know how I made it to high school, to be honest with you, because I didn't even go to school pretty much at all. But when I went to school, I would leave immediately. And there was one of these days that I walked on the sidewalk, and there was somebody that came up to me, and he goes, "Hey, man, nice chain." And I was like, "Nice chain." I was like, "Oh yeah, it's the only thing that I had from my dad, which was a gold chain." He was a jeweler. His name was Tony the jeweler from New York. Yeah, picture that. So I got a gold necklace from him, and I'll never forget somebody saying, you know, "Nice necklace." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." And he was riding by on a bike. And then before you know it, there was a kid behind me. He grabbed the back of my necklace and pulled me back. And then when I went to yank my head forward, somebody punched me and knocked me out. And I was laying on the concrete. I don't even know how long, but all I remember was waking up and my necklace was gone. Now, I had a friend at the time that loved to fight, and he kind of caught wind about what happened, and he ended up like skipping class and finding the kid, and he beat the kid up so much so that the actual police officer for the school had to pull him off or else he was going to get arrested. And I got my necklace back, right? But it just made me think that, man, I didn't stick up for myself again. Because when that happened, I woke up and I was kind of like afraid to even address anything. I was afraid to like just really stick up for myself again, right? So I say all that to say this, and thank you for listening to this long introduction. But I say all that to say this, right? Is that all of these people said that I was soft and I wouldn't stick up for myself, and that anything I did wasn't going to be there for long. So I constantly had this illusion in my mind that I would think about my my inner feelings, and I would literally project them on the face of other people. So the third word I want to tell you about is projection. And projection means taking your inner feelings and printing them onto someone else's face. I mean, I don't know if you felt that before, right? Because we're going from anonymity, interjection, and projection, right? And interjection, meaning swallowing someone else's voice and thinking that it's your own, is how we create ghosts. But projection, taking your inner feelings and printing them onto someone else's face, is how we create this thinking trap. This thinking trap. This is how we get caught up in waiting 6 years to do something that takes 6 minutes. We get caught up in this thinking trap. You feel like a newbie, so you project that feeling onto your audience and say, they think I'm a newbie. No, you think you're a newbie, and you're using their faces as a movie screen. I'm 44 years old, and just recently have I started to realize that I was projecting my thoughts about myself and actually labeling them as if it was coming from other people. Because this is something that we all do at times. And back in 1902, Charlie Cooley said this: "We are not who we think we are. We are not who others think we are. We are what we think others think we are, or who we think others think we are." Let's get to drawing, y'all. So here's the thing. Read only. No, we need to change that. All right. If y'all getting any value from this so far, drop some rockets in the chat because we're about to dig in. That was just the introduction. So I want to say this, right? So you have yourself, right? And then you have, we're just going to make a mirror here. We're going to write the word they. Because I've heard this. I've had clients that have said this. I've seen this a lot, right? People will say, "Yeah, they are going to judge me. They are going to say that I look stupid. They are going to say that they is not someone else. It's a self-image that you're creating. I don't know if I put a smiley face, but it's a self-image that you're creating based on two things. Number one, who you think others think you are when you do something, and then also the ghosts of your past that were just lies that you convinced yourself to believe. One of my mentors, he says that they call this your lie identity, everything that's not true to you. Instead of focusing on your identity, which is everything that is true, based on how God created you. Because God created you in the image of himself, which should be enough. But unfortunately, we read the Bible and believe the opposite. Anyway, so I'll get back into this. Our self-image is created based on two things. Number one, who we think they are, which who are they? They are actually just a label that we give something that's coming from the inside. Everything outside is coming from the inside. So we, as human beings, we get to a place where we're like, you know what? They think that I look dumb. And then we think we're dumb, but it's not even what they're thinking. It's not even what they're thinking. Others are not thinking what you may think that they're thinking. But Charles Cooley said it. We are who we think that others think we are. Anyway, all right. So we'll keep going, right? So you got one way where we focus on we believe that our self-image is based on who we think they are. Now the second piece of this is this, right? The second piece is this, right? So you have other people that are real. They're not ghosts. Now this is really the ghost that we create here, right? But we have other people that are not ghosts. And they may be, let's say, they may be thinking about things. And we may be thinking about things. But like I said, we are not who we think we are. We are not who others think we are. We are who we think others think we are. Have you ever felt this way before? Am I adding any value to you guys today? Have you ever felt this way before? To where you think that if I go do something new, right? I'll just say, going back to my story, I thought that every time I did something, when conflict was going to arise, I was not going to know how to handle it. If somebody was going to steal my basketball, if somebody was going to beat me up and jump me, if I was going to go through something, and not only that, I started having this assumption, which is one of the 4 agreements, never assume, but I didn't know that then, but I would have this assumption that every time I did something new, it wasn't going to go right. It was going to go wrong. It was going to go wrong. And this wasn't reality. This was something that I was creating in my own mind. So I bottled up all of that anger at that time. Going back to my story, if my story's giving you any value by relating to this, I don't know. I can't see you guys. I love speaking on stage. Doing this live can be a little, I don't understand if there's good energy coming. It's telling any of my story. I don't want to tell my story for the sake of you hearing my story. I want to tell a story that allows you to get value from it for yourself. I'm here to serve you. This is not for me, right? So if talking about my story helps you relate, please drop some rockets in the chat. Because the next thing that I did in the season of life is that I said, you know what? I got a lot of anger inside of me. So what should I start doing? Well, my dad wasn't around. So who raised me? Dr. Dre, Wu-Tang Clan, Snoop Dogg, Twista. All these rappers started raising me because my dad wasn't around, but they were there. All I needed was some batteries. All I needed was some AA batteries in my Sony Walkman, and I had somebody teaching me what I was supposed to do with my life, which was go and do some things that are going to give you what you want. And that was pretty much all I heard in all the music was like, you can go ahead and treat people however you want to treat them. You don't have to show anybody respect. You can treat women with disrespect. You can go ahead and do things to make money because you want to live a certain type of life. So that's what I started doing. I started living the life that I listened to when I was listening to rap music. And then I started like memorizing some of the rap lyrics. And I started actually like realizing that I started believing that I was a rapper. And then I was like, I want to rap. So then I started rapping. And who would have known? I wasn't that bad. But what did I do? I started battle rapping. I don't know if you guys ever watched Eminem 8 Mile or anything like that, but I started battle rapping all the way to the point where I would battle rap in clubs to where people would come and the promoters would tell me not to because it would turn the club upside down. And I'll never forget, it was like New Year's Eve back in like 1999 or 1998 or something like that. I was like 18 years old at the time. 17 or 18 years old. And it was like my first event that I was actually going to get paid. And I was going to get paid $500 for the event, right? And I had made a little mixtape. And my name was kind of buzzing in the area over here. And in St. Petersburg, Florida. I had looked up to some of the other artists in the area. And, all I would do is listen to rap. And at that time, it started to become slow down. I would go listen to like slow down music. So it would be like rap music, but it would be slowed down, right? So keep talking. I'm relating. Cool. Appreciate that. So when I got into these clubs, I would use all the anger that I had and I would project it onto other people, right? And man, I didn't want to tell all these stories, but it's coming out of me. And I feel like it's important for you to understand why this has happened to me. And the chat saying they're relating. So I'm going to keep going. So what happened was I started actually battle rapping in these clubs, right? And I'll never forget the one night, like I said, New Year's Eve, my mom came. Because it was actually not in the bad side of town. It was not in like some of the places that I actually went to, right? And when I was literally at this club, I'll never forget and rest in peace to the promoter. He was actually the person that made my Let's Go Chesco logo. I reunited that conversation. Well, anyway, I'm not going to go there yet, but he was somebody else that passed away that I knew in my life from a drug overdose, actually. But before then, right, I ended up actually going on stage and they were like, don't do the battle rap. Just go ahead and perform tonight. And I said, all right, cool. Well, everybody wanted me to battle rap, so I went ahead and got up there. And I'll never forget some of the things that I said because it was such a crazy night. And I'm gonna share that with you guys, right? Is that I'll never forget. It was back when baggy clothes were in style before they came back again. I had baggy pants on, baggy jeans on. I had a tall tee. I don't know if you guys remember tall tees. I had a tall tee on. I was probably listening to like, some I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter what I was listening to. Well, probably some Ti or something like that, or Outkast. And so that was the music that I really loved back then when at that age. But so I got on stage. The guy said he's gonna shoot me. He's got guns. He's a thug. He's got money. He's got drugs. He's got whatever, car on 26s, whatever, right? And I'll never forget some of the things that I rebutted. And somebody recently even told me that this is probably some of the reasons why I'm able to communicate well, especially when I'm on stages or I'm delivering presentations, keynotes, and doing things like that, because I know how to rebuttal fast and come up with different things off the top. So I'll never forget. I said to him, I said, I hear what you're saying. You got guns. You're a thug. But look at those shoes. Did you walk to the club? Because they were, there was probably something wrong with them or something, right? And and so I found out the places in somebody's life that looked like it was messed up, and I would just dig into it and drill into it. And I said, I doubt you can afford a gun, let alone one will be popping. And I said, how could I lose? My own mom is watching. And the whole crowd went crazy, right? And a few other things happened. He ended up flipping a Burberry visor or Gucci visor. I don't remember what it was at the time, but I used to wear these visors, right? Burberry and Gucci visors. And he flipped it off my head. And then the whole club went upside down. Everybody started fighting, and people went to jail, and it was just a horrible night. And I'll never forget that. Like, I was using that anger though to be able to um kind of get it off my chest. And so when you see how I'm able to communicate, I've been on stages communicating in different ways to different people in multiple types of venues for a very long time. Went on after that to go ahead and actually open up for Lil Wayne, Young Jeezy, T Pain, all these different types of artists. And then all the way into 2008, which was the last thing that I did, was I actually ended up making the Tampa Bay Rays official theme song for the team here in St. Pete back in 2008, right? And they played that for a couple of years. But after that, I had a big altercation with the radio DJ, and things just did not go the way that they were supposed to be. But everything is in God's timing, right? Because it kind of took me down a different lane at the time. But I say all that to say this, right? I was literally thinking about how I needed to go ahead and view, like, I love the attention, and I thought that I was actually worth something, because I thought that when people were clapping and cheering for me, that I was worth something. And just recently, I actually did an event a couple of months back. I just posted something on social media about it, and you could hear the crowd really in tune to what I was saying. So it makes me think now, the way I look at things. I'm like, if people say anything good or say anything bad, like, I know that I'm still doing what I'm going to do. Now, I'll take feedback and constructive criticism, but only usually from people that have constructed something. And when I do that, I will then apply it. I'm very coachable, and I will apply what I'm taught. But what I'm realizing now is that there's a lot of things that took me so long to do because of this ghost in my mind from the past, because of the way that I actually view myself. And it's interesting because, like, when you really think about it, we truly want to feel this sense of acceptance from others, right? We want to feel accepted. I think that's one of the basic needs that people want to feel met now, is that they want to feel accepted. But here's the challenge, right? Is that mom spaghetti. That's funny. Um, yeah, exactly. But we want to feel accepted. But here's the thing, right? If we do things because we think that other people will think that we're actually doing something right, then we're also going to be paralyzed when we think that other people are thinking that we're doing something wrong. And so it's kind of like, if somebody were to tell you you're doing an amazing job, you may feel like you're doing an amazing job. But where is that voice coming from? If somebody's telling you that you're not doing a good job, like, I've had people tell me before that, you should have stayed on this track. You should have done this. Why didn't you do this? Why did you stop doing this? You were doing so well there. You should have, kept doing this, right? And what's interesting is that I always tell myself things like, hey, you're the only person that's going to spend the rest of your life with you, right? And I tell myself, like, tomorrow's not promised. So if I look back on my deathbed, am I going to want to look back and say, I can't believe I did that? Or am I going to say, man, what would have happened if I would have? And I promise you, I've been to enough funerals, and I've been to enough nursing homes, and I've given enough death claims being in the life insurance industry for over a decade, that I've realized that a lot of people, when I've had conversations with them, there's a lot of regret based on them not doing something just to see what would have happened. Just to see what would have happened. And a lot of these YouTube videos are that for my children. Like I said a while ago, I said my why for doing these videos is knowing that 50 years down the road, I won't be here. 100 years down the road, nobody will remember who I am. But my grandkids might say, you know what? Hey, I want to see who my grandfather was. And I'll be able to add some value for them from the perspective of somebody that actually was part of their family tree, right? And so through this, I hope that you start to see that, like, when you may be thinking about doing something new, the issue with you not being okay with being a beginner is only because of the thoughts that you may think that how other people are thinking about you. And how you perceive life is how you receive life. Like what you really believe is going to create what you perceive, and what you perceive is going to create what you receive. And if you believe that whatever happened to you in the past, like when I got bullied, when I got my necklace taken, when I got, when I got my ball taken, or, the stories I was talking about earlier, when I really believe that, like, hey, nothing is supposed to stay in my life that's good. Hey, I went through a divorce in 2016. Is that part of that thinking too? Hey, I lost my business in 2021, or the office space that I was at. It's almost like I've found a way to sabotage myself through life at times, because I go back to when I was a child and I got bullied, I got picked on, and it made me think that, maybe things just don't stay in my life. Maybe I'm just not supposed to be somebody. Maybe I'm just not supposed to be somebody that experiences things for a long period of time. Maybe I'm not supposed to experience happiness. Maybe I'm supposed to only get to a certain place and things are taken away from me. And with that belief system, I've sabotaged myself right before I was actually going to get the reward for all of the hard work that I put in. In 2014, I was actually the general manager of the year out of 700 stores in a massive corporate organization that sells eyeglasses, right? General manager of the year, right? And what was wild is that they wanted to give me an award in San Antonio, Texas. And I found a way to sabotage myself to not hop on that plane to go there and actually receive that award. Now, granted, I was going through panic attacks at the time, and I was actually not being open about the things that I wanted in my marriage. And my ex-wife at the time was an alcoholic, and I was around a bunch of alcoholics, and I felt like I was really out of place. So the decisions and things that I was making were crazy, but I still do believe that I sabotaged my reward because of me thinking that, hey, I'm not supposed to deserve these things in my life, but you are supposed to deserve the reward. Like, God wants you to have everything that you deserve based on all the hard work that you put in. I mean, that was 2014. Then it was when I got into life insurance. I ended up working for an MLM for a little while. Then I went into a captive organization, and that captive organization, I ended up getting a recipient of the $1 Million Roundtable selling life insurance, right? And so I got the general manager award in 2014, but didn't go receive the award. And then in what was it, 2020 and 2019, I ended up actually getting the $1 Million Roundtable award for life insurance, which is in the top like 5% of financial advisors in the world. And I worked really hard for something, but then I didn't feel like I deserved what I was supposed to receive. I don't know if anybody can relate to that. Like, have you ever felt like you worked so hard for something, but when it's time to actually get the reward, when it's time for you to actually step into who you're supposed to become, you feel like, you know what? No, you have this ghost in your mind that's actually telling you that you don't deserve it, or you're not worth that. I don't know how many guys may feel like you don't deserve to be where you're shooting for. Maybe some of you do, maybe some of you don't. And now I'm in a season of life where I'm realizing that none of those were mistakes. They were all just messages for who I've become. So if you're watching this right now, just know that, like, whatever that you're going through is going to be everything that you got through, because God's got you. God's got you. He has the plan. He has the playbook. And even if we run the play and we fumble the ball at times, his plan is still going to come out on top, because we're not that sweet. I think it was Inky Johnson said it in an event that I saw a couple of years ago. He said, you're not that sweet. You can't mess up God's plan for you. You just can't. I mean, even going back to, I think it was the year 1998 or something like that, when I was supposed to go to New Orleans and talk to Baby at Cash Money Records about ghostwriting. I mean, there were some people that we ended up going to New Orleans one time, and we were looking for the place, but then I kind of like said I didn't want to look for it anymore. And then it was 2 years later, I got a call to come up there and actually go talk about an opportunity of being involved in this major record label. And I still said I'm not going, because all of these times in life, it was almost like God was showing me how gifted and talented I was, but he was allowing me to see that I was actually the reason for my troubles and my trauma. And for you or anybody that's watching this right now, just know something. Like, if God woke you up today, he's not done with you yet. And although you may be the problem in your life, you are also the solution. If you guys are tuning in live for the first time, all I could say from this is that if you're getting any value, please like this video. Drop a comment, some rockets in the chat that hopefully maybe this is right on time in your life, or share this with somebody. Subscribe to the channel too. That would be so dope. Just subscribe to the channel. So that way, I can see that this is adding value for you. But so the last thing I want to talk about is this, is that don't think about the thoughts. Don't think about the thoughts of those that are on the sideline while you're in the game. Don't think about the thoughts of those that are on the sideline while you're in the game. While you're in the game doing the thing, there will be a lot of people that will have something to say. There will be a lot of things that you think that people are thinking about you. But what you think that they want to say, it's probably not even true. That's your own insecurity in life because you're afraid to actually go ahead and just start. But here's the thing, right? If God put it on your heart, then God's going to play a part. But you got to start. Faith without works is dead. And you can't replace laziness with prayer. You must take action. Like in the last video, I was talking about a bird that gets pushed out of the nest. They have to keep flapping, even when nobody's clapping, because that's when something's going to happen. Right? So don't think about the thoughts of those that are on the sideline while you're in the game. But just know something. If you don't feel like, because this is all comes down to your thoughts, right? This is all about your thoughts, right? When you think about your thoughts, what's interesting is that if you really have a hard time being present or being able to stop yourself from thinking something, just pay attention to your feelings. Just pay attention to your feelings. If you pay attention to your feelings, you could start to then say, okay, why am I feeling this way? What am I thinking about right now? What am I thinking about right now? Because the thinking, although it's a good thing to do, you have to stop. You have to know when to stop doing it. You got to know when to stop doing it. And to the person, there's been many entrepreneurs that I've met, that I've worked with, that I've coached, that I've even been mentored by, that have said things like, they don't want me to win. They are hating on me. Well, you will never meet they in person, because they is just your fear in disguise. It's in disguise. And when you stop giving that ghost a name, you will then give yourself permission to rise. Great message and insight, Chesko. Big time value. I appreciate you. Thank you. And you're not being chased. Like this ghost that you have, right? You're not being chased by the ghost of others' opinions. You're being chased by this ghost, which is just the story that you keep telling yourself. The ghost that is the story that you keep telling yourself. Like, let me give you an action step, right? I believe you got to take ownership, which is taking accountability of understanding that this is going on. Then you got to take action. So how are we going to take action? I would like somebody to actually write down who they believe they are. Like when you start thinking about doing something new, who pops in your head? What pops in your head? Is it this teacher from ninth grade? Is it your uncle from 5 years ago? This is being really transparent. And can I be vulnerable with y'all? Can I be transparent with y'all? They say don't use your anger as motivation. But I know Andy Frisella talks about this a lot. And Michael Jordan literally used this as fuel for success. And I want to be transparent with y'all. I believe somebody's, one man's transparency is another man's therapy. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I gave my ghost a name. Like, you could give the ghost a name. So then that way you can label it and you know exactly where that thought process is coming from. So for me personally, I started actually getting to a point where I was growing in life, and all of the friends that I had were like, "Oh yeah, you're acting different." I even had some friends tell me like, "Oh yeah, your wife is so much more fun than you are," because they would all go out and drink, and I would stay home with the kids, right? And it started messing with me really bad. And then after that divorce, I became a single dad. I lost everybody around me, not only the marriage, but and my kids half the time, but everybody around me. And what I realized though in that moment is I needed to go ahead and give that person a name. The person that was in my head that was saying, "Oh yeah, you're not good enough. You're not going to do what you think you're doing. Why don't you just chill out, drink this, smoke this?" And what did I do? I literally went back and my ex-wife's father that would just be very kind at times, but he was an alcoholic, right? And what I realized was that like he would get drunk and just go off and just tell me how I'm trying to be better than everybody else. And I need to just go ahead and live in the moment and be present, right? Which living in the moment is okay. But understand what you do in that moment is going to determine how many moments you get. What you do with that present, which is the gift of today, is going to determine how many presents you get, how many more presents you get, right? I mean, we live in the moment. Be present, but don't use that as an excuse to actually do the things that are going to keep you from living many more moments, right? I'm not going to just go ahead and get drunk with some people on the weekend to be able to live in the moment, because that's going to kill more moments in the future. Like I know people right now like I don't want to say names, but I'll just say coming from the family that I was involved in for a very long time, there's people that are damn near on their deathbed because they made that excuse all the time. They said, "You know what? Here, drink this, smoke this, do that." And their habits have caught up to them. And if you show me your habits, I will show you your future. And there's people that I know in my life right now that make the excuse of saying they can't even go get a job because they don't want to take accountability for the things that are going on in their mind, the thoughts in their mind. And so I know what that's like. A whole year, I couldn't walk to the mailbox because I was having panic attacks. But it's because I was wrestling with this. I knew I wanted more. I knew I could grow. I knew I was destined for more. I knew God had more in store for me, but I kept sabotaging myself because I didn't believe that I was worth the reward that I worked so hard for. So now when I go back to these moments, I think to myself that a lot of people, they will start doing something for a long period of time and then they'll take one day off. They'll start doing things for a long period of time and then they'll take 2 days off. And James Clear said it in Atomic Habits, and I'm going to butcher this, but I just get the message. He said that, if you take one day off, then that's just the day off. But if you take 2 days off, you're creating a new habit. And a lot of people have said, "Chesko, you're so consistent." And I have a hard time seeing that because I feel like I bounced around with certain things. But then I think about the seasons of my life that I was in with certain people. And certain people say that you're so consistent. And they may be talking about because I showed up 700 days on Clubhouse, hosting a call to celebrate wins, celebrate each other, and praise God through the process. Then I went ahead and I was dropping a piece of content every single day. And what was it, 2023, about if you woke up, you're winning. And like anything that I do, I'm not going to do it because of the reward. I'm going to do it because I know that if I do it every single day or every single week, or if I just do what I said I'm going to do, two things are going to happen. My anxiety is going to die. I'm going to start feeling better about myself, regardless of how other people feel. But then secondly, I'm going to become so far greater than who I was when I first started because I'm actually doing something new. So a lot of the times we don't want to do something new because we don't want to look like a beginner. But if you can get okay with understanding that beginning is winning, when you can understand that everybody had to start somewhere, go check out the videos of the garage with Steve Jobs and all these people the Jeff Bezos pictures. Like, take a look at those things and know that those people started, and so many people thought they were crazy for so long. And they will be completely right. Like, the people in your life will probably think you're nuts for doing something that you've never done before. Like, I even have people now that are saying, "Well, how are you going to make some money off that YouTube channel?" And I'm like, well, I'm not looking at it like making money. I'm looking at it as becoming the person that's going to do something consistently every single week to find topics in my life that I could talk about that relate exactly to situations in my life and add some value to some others while they watch me leave content that my kids are going to be able to go to when I'm not here anymore. So when my kids have the time and they say, you know what, I'm struggling with thinking that other people are thinking about me and they're actually going to judge me when I show up, then they can watch this video and understand that they were actually creating that ghost themselves. And it's not even real. And I will say this too, to anybody that's doing something new, get around people that have already done what you're trying to do, because those people will not look down on you. It's only the people from the sidelines that haven't done what you've done. Everybody respects you. You know, it's like if you're a barber, right? If you're a barber and you just started cutting people's hair, right? It's like you're going to probably mess up some people's hair. And there's going to be some people that are going to tell you, hey, you know what? You know, if you start barbering people's hair, what's going to happen if you mess up their hair? Well, what's going to happen when it works? What's going to happen when you have 3 shops? What's going to happen when you're the best barber around? Like when you really shift your perspective to what if it doesn't work, to what if it works, you start visualizing the things that you actually want in your life. And if I'm going to project a future outcome on my mind, then why wouldn't I want to project the things that I want instead of the things that I don't? The next time somebody asks, tell them it's free to mind your business. Yeah. And what everybody thinks about you, you know, is none of your business. Now, that's like some cliche stuff that people talk about all the time. I wanted to dig a little bit deeper and just let somebody know that, like, when they starts to disappear, then the real you starts to reappear. And once they becomes me, you finally get to take ownership and accountability to write your own story. What if it works? That's what I would say. What if it works? What if it works? It's on my screensaver actually with my kids back in the same year that I went through a lot of challenges when they were 6 and 7. What if it works? Because I have to remind myself every single day. Getting this perspective shift and watching videos like this and educating yourself is like brushing your teeth and taking a shower. It's not going to stick today. You have to keep doing it every single day. So the activity that I would have for you today is that write down who they is. The thing that when you do something, who are they? Now, if you could find a name for the people, then you're going to be able to picture that person and use that as fuel. Their doubt as motivation. But just know something too. If you can't give them a name, if you can't give they a name, then there's no one else left to blame but you. You are getting in your own way. What would it look like if you were the person that believed that everything that you're about to do or you are doing is going to work? What would your life look like if it works? Visualize that. Take some time today. Take a minute, sit in the car, wherever you got to go, and visualize what happens if it works. Because if you visualize that it's going to work, you'll have a picture in your mind that will pull you towards something. Tony Robbins talked about it. He was just coaching Alex Hormozy on a YouTube video recently, and he talked about the different motivations between pushing and pulling. And there are things that in life that push us. Maybe the doubt of others, or maybe it's the pain of something that happened in your life, or maybe I want to prove all the people that picked on me when I was a kid wrong, that I'm somebody. That pushes me. But that's only going to push you for so long. You have to have something that pulls you. What's pulling you? That will continue to pull you. What is the why for why you do what you do? Because I'll tell you this, if you're a parent, your kids aren't going to learn by what's taught. They're going to learn by what's caught. And they're catching everything you're doing. how you communicate with them, how you communicate with their parents, how you communicate with others, how you teach them every single week, the expectations that you have on yourself, because you can't push them to be phenomenal while you're average. They're not going to learn by what's taught. They're going to learn by what's caught. So allow them to catch something good. So remember this. Charles Cooley said it back in 1902. The reason why we struggle as human beings is because it's not that we think. We are not who we think we are. We are not who others think we are. We are who we think others think we are. And when you start feeling that, you can start to identify that. And when you identify that, then you can finally start to control your life, because you have to see something before you can change it. So just like I say in my focus framework, the F stands for find your fingers, find your toes. You start feeling anxiety, you start feeling stress, you start feeling like something's not going to work. Find your fingers, wiggle your toes, find your toes. Get out of your head, because that's where you'll be dead. And know that these are the types of things that you have to apply when you get out of your head. So this way you can stop haunting yourself, because there's nobody stopping you. There's nobody stopping you. It says it in the Bible that with God, anything is possible. God can do the impossible. But when are you going to start doing what's possible first? When are you going to start doing what's possible first? Which is believe that it's going to work. And when you believe it, that's when you perceive it. And eventually you're going to receive it. It's all on God's time. But the people around you will start to change. I'll tell you that. And that's a beautiful thing, because you'll start to mute out what's in the stands. You'll start to mute out the people that are not playing in the game. So again, if you can't give they a name, that's when you realize there's no one else to blame. Rockets in the chat if you guys got some value from this video today. Please like, subscribe. After this video is published, drop some comments on some takeaways. I'd love to know any feedback, as I want to be able to add value. That's my whole life's mission, is to be able to add value. And I want to shift 1 million people's perspective this year, to be able to help them see that they're winning when they feel like they're losing. Help them see that they don't need a new life. They just need a new lens. So if you can help me do that, we could change the world. We could change a lot of people's lives. And just super grateful that you took the time out, whether you've been here for 5 minutes, whether you've been here for the whole hour. Oh, man, I'm sorry. I always say that I'll run out of time before we run out of value, and I guess that happened today too. But I will say that, if you got some value from this, please let me know. And, this is how you can eliminate that fear of judgment, when you realize nobody is really judging you. It's only the thoughts that you think that they're actually judging you. And when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. This has been another weekly live stream for the Perspective Pause. And all I can tell you is this: find the time. Find the time to apply this, because it's not it's all about, because it's all about self-reflection, because momentum means nothing if you're going in the wrong direction. My name's Chesco. This has been another Perspective Pause. I pray that you guys continue to change the way you look at things, because when you start doing that, everything that's around you is going to start to change, and your life will start to finally be something that you've created by design instead of something by default. I pray you guys have a phenomenal week, and keep taking ownership, keep taking action, and eventually you're going to take off. God bless y'all. Peace.